Well, I got to move on.
Oh, there you go.
So,
Who's on first?
With the new government, their focus with TIF financing has shifted from residential TIF development into larger, I'm gonna say, small-scale industrial development. So, it's hard because there's no examples currently in the north. But if you guys travel to Winnipeg frequently on Highway 6, there's one in Woodlands. It's a recent TIF development. It started out as a small sort of trailer design build company.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're just on the north side of Highway 6 there. And so they applied to the province for TIF financing to increase production, essentially, of their business. And so they go through the process, and if it's deemed as a viable business that can be scaled up and production can be increased, then what happens is they enter into the TIF program. And what that does is divert any municipal or school board taxes that the business would pay to you guys. It's kicked back to the business for a certain amount of years to be reinvested in that business, not as like, so they don't get this money back and they can just do whatever they want with it. It's meant to be reinvested into the business for scaling it up, increasing production, increasing training of the workforce, services surrounding the business and stuff like that. So I mean, we could go through this page by page if you guys want, but I figured it might be more beneficial just to do a general sort of.
What is it? I'm sorry.
What is TIF financing?
Yes.
It's essentially, it's a deferral of municipal and school taxes to the business that should be paying them to you guys. And so I'll use just a random farm implement business. Say one came up and established, here in town. And you guys set up, or they were part of a TIF financing agreement with you guys in the province. Part of that agreement would be that they're not paying you guys taxes for X number of years, whatever the agreement would be, 10 to 15 years. And those taxes are then returned to the business for reinvestment and further development of that business.
Can you use a very specific example that maybe we can relate to? What about if we just finished going through the subdivision process for Orc Siding out by the airport. So we're not quite done the subdivision. We started the process, we have no internal roads or anything. So what if we found a buyer right now? Could they use the TIF program to improve that property, to actually develop that property?
If there was economic evidence put forth that there is validity behind their business and that it will create economic return for the region and jobs, then yeah, but you couldn't just have somebody come in to sort of develop the property for you.
No, I'm meaning like right from, because right now we don't have it completely done. We have, here's where our lots are gonna be built up. We haven't done internal roads or anything. Say Trevor comes to me and says, I wanna develop this, it's Orc Siding, I wanna have like a depot out of here that we transport stuff north. We're gonna have about 50 employees. It's gonna be set up almost like a factory, and we're gonna farm stuff out of here. They would fall under a TIF?
That would be eligible for TIF consideration.
So if will it qualify for, say, condo development?
Not anymore.
That was the new change?
That was the big change. The previous TIF focused more on residential development. But I mean, you guys have a municipal TIF in place already that can be applied to condo development, where you say to your condo guys that are gonna come in and develop, okay, well, part of our municipal TIF is we're gonna defer you guys' tax payments to us and the school board for X number of years, and you guys get that tax back. But part of that kickback to you is it must be reinvested into your property, into the services around your property, or into further construction of more condo units.
So no residential applications at all, no multifamily, somebody wants to build an apartment block?
No, not at this time. But like I said, that's where your municipal TIF comes in, but I know it's hard when you're a smaller municipality to defer, you know, potential $100,000 of tax from a residential development. No, and they've shifted, that's what, under the previous government, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Shed in downtown Winnipeg, the sports, hospitality, and entertainment district. That's how a lot of that came to be developed, was through municipal TIF of the province. And so, like True North Square, when it was built and developed, they're not paying taxes on the pre-assessed value for, I believe it's 15 years. And so they then take that money and turn it into improvements in the neighborhood, whether it's like sidewalk renewal, tree vegetation planting, upgrading sewer and wastewater disposal and stuff like that. But when their 15-year deal is up, they're then hit with assessed value, you know, 20 times higher than what they signed into the program at, because their property has developed so much through them putting this money back into it. Pardon me, that's where the big benefit for towns and municipalities comes in, is because you sort of helped develop this taxable entity to the fullest of its possibility, so that you guys in the end are the ones reaping the rewards.
So what happens if the money isn't put back in on a yearly basis like it's supposed to be on their side, say True North? If True North went a year without putting that money back in?
There would be penalties. I can't say specifically what it would be, because it's a case-by-case situation. But part of the deal is that, yes, it has to go back, or else it's essentially fraud,
Okay.
right? Yeah,
Fair
because, you've committed to this deal with the province.
Yeah.
And they'll keep a close eye on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, Brett, if you're looking by the Forks, how they did that whole big residential development, was that under the TIF or was that under a different one? Where they did all the waterfront condos and,
That was just all private,
okay.
yeah.
So they didn't get any kind of a, all right,
No, that was, what the city did there, that was back in the mid to late 90s, when Waterfront Drive it was nothing, it was just like a dirt road, right? And so the city basically was handing land over to developers, saying, you know, if you want to come in here and build, have your condos, have at it, because then we're the ones who are gonna reap the rewards from these high-end condos being built here now, kind of thing, right? So it was the land was deemed not invaluable, but non-conducive to development to the majority of parties, unless you had
gotcha.
bigger pockets.
So is there anybody in the north right now that you know of that's kind of, no?
No, you guys are the only town that I've ever talked to, this is twice
Yeah.
now that I've spoken to about
Okay.
TIF financing. And I mean, what I could say is that had this existed previously, the Arctic Research Center up at Thompson probably would have been eligible for TIF. Just like, I know there's been preliminary discussion with them as well for an area here. That would be a project that would be TIF eligible.
One that I see that this could definitely work for, the Arctic Gateway, if they were to do some major expansion, this could work for them.
Yeah, for sure, and that would fall right under it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But municipal TIFs, we can do, but that's a separate issue, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's wholly funded by the municipality, there's no provincial involvement in that whatsoever.
No.
Whereas the TIFs that are being discussed here there is provincial involvement.
Provincial involvement, because it involves,
Economic growth and that sort of
Yeah.
thing, that's what the province is gunning for. Municipal TIF, we could use for condo development and multifamily.
yeah, it's once you start to divert money away from school boards, which is part of the TIF program, that's when the province gets in there, because then they pick up the shortfall to fund the schools accordingly in the interim
Yeah.
while that TIF is in place, so the school boards aren't losing out
Yep.
and seeing their funding decrease.
But on the municipal, we would have to.
On the
cover
municipal
that?
side, you guys would see a reduction Well, it all depends, right, because
We wouldn't see.
that's how you look at it, you'd see it very,
Yeah.
if somebody's coming and buying a vacant piece of land from you guys right now that's not, you know, is being taxed at $1,000 a year, and is then going to do something to it to have it being taxed at $15,000 to $20,000 a year, you're not really losing out in that meantime, because you'll gain big once the TIF arrangement is over, and you're then collecting taxes at $15,000 to $20,000 on a property that was $1,000 previous, or yeah.
And we would still be getting that $1,000.
You'd still be getting that $1,000 in the interim,
Yeah.
yeah.
So in this, like say you're, two things kind of, like an addiction treatment facility for the north. Would that fall into this or no?
If it was privately done, yes, but generally, government will get its hands into,
It's gonna have economic development.
Yeah, I know.
there has to be a strong economic development component to it for it to be eligible for TIF.
Okay, so then if we decide to build this Wonders Medical Clinic, would it be the same thing? Like,
As long as there's no provincial money involved, and it can be shown, you know, if this medical clinic is gonna bring in 5 doctors and 10 nurses and an x-ray tech sort of thing to a region that is grossly underserved in that capacity, I can't see why it wouldn't be considered for TIF, because it is bringing in jobs and training
it's a spin off
and,
into the community.
yeah, in other areas that necessarily might not get it here, right?
That's it?
Interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you guys have any other questions?
Okay,
Thank you guys.
yeah, thank you.
Don't admit your bottle of Clearwater Lake. This is a meeting notice for you all.
I think we have a couple of items in camera, guys.
Wanna read that?
Yeah, there'll be nothing coming out of there for business.
Read your thing.
We resolve that we move ourselves into the in-camera portion of Committee of the Whole with Mayor Jakes in the chair to discuss matters requiring our attention.